Welcome to Authors Revealed. I'm Becky Anderson. I have one of the best guides that's out there right now. It's called How to Be an American Citizen. Sylvia Hidalgo, one of our local authors, is here with a great little book that's told with humor, graphics, maps, all sorts of stuff to talk about how to be a great American citizen. It's all about her journey to becoming a U.S. citizen as well. Well, Sylvia, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking about your new book, How to Be an American Citizen.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming back to Anderson's, because I know you did one of your first book events with at our Downers Grove store.
Yes.
So thank you for coming to Naperville.
Of course, it's a pleasure.
And sitting down for this. So I just would like to know, this field guide, to becoming a citizen. Where did it all start? Where did this book idea start? Because I know you have a history that makes this book so much sense, but it also makes you one of the best people to write it and to design it as well.
It started basically because that's pretty much the only way I can study. Since high school, I realized I had trouble memorizing information and studying straight from just reading.
Right.
So I started a visual summary for myself first. And usually what I do is I work with a lot of drawings and jokes, like a lot of humor and graphics and fun type, that usually helps me kind of pull out information or remember information, because then I guide myself with the drawings, and then that allows me to remember everything else. So when I picked up the material that the government gives to study for the citizenship, I realized that wasn't going to work for me, because it's a question and answer format, and the categories make a lot of sense, but in terms of telling a story, it completely breaks all the information. Right. So you're just approaching each piece of information just as a question and an answer. And so I decided to read everything, kind of digest it, and then start putting it into summaries that make sense in terms of period or character, or some of the categories from the original material also. And originally it was going to be just for me.
Right. And we'll talk about how it became so much more.
Yes.
But this, I think it's so fascinating when you talk about humor, but visually learning something from all the different things you put in this book in the different ways really does. It makes you remember it better.
Definitely.
And story is so important, especially the history of any country. Its story helps you remember a lot of facts when you do it in the right order.
And when you put it in context, it's more difficult to remember in my opinion, it's more difficult to remember just one specific piece of information about a character than when you learn about who that character was in many other situations, or did that person work with other people to change a law, or to that always helps a lot, I think, than loose pieces of information.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
So the book's been out almost 2 weeks now, I think, out in the world, and on bookstore shelves everywhere. But what are you hearing from readers, your family, from your coworkers, or the people you've worked with? What are you hearing about?
Well, the first thing, even earlier before the book came out, I could see to my friends, American friends that I showed the prototypes to, the reaction immediately was always the same. They would open it up and start reading and then quizzing each other. And immediately they would find out that they didn't remember a lot of the stuff. So most of the people that are all citizens, I'm referring to them as all citizens, like American-born people that went to school here. From them, I hear the same thing, how it's amazing how much they have forgotten, and how easy it is, how accessible the information is. I've heard a lot of people that are in the process of doing, several people that are in the process of doing the naturalization process. I got to talk to them during my book tour, and they're very excited because it's a very different format. So in some of them were in the process of studying, and some of them were kind of dragging the beginning of that process.
Sure.
And so they were very excited about having a different material that shows you the information in a very different way.
Right. But it shows it in a fun way.
Yes.
A memorable way.
Yes.
And it's not just memorizing facts, it's memorizing things because they're important.
Correct.
And that's the huge difference. So I want to know if the U.S. government's going to adopt your book.
I can only hope so.
I think they could not ask for a better guide, because and it's true, it is a great refresher course for those of us who are citizens already. But I think it's just a great book for kids.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, last week I was at the Illinois Reading Council, which is the statewide reading council for a lot of teachers who come and hear about new books and meet authors and all sorts of stuff. And I talked about this book to a ton of teachers at the middle school level, high school, and even adults. And they were fascinated with this. So I know you did a high school when you were here in Naperville before. You did Naperville North High School. So tell us about that, taking this to the high school level in your first time talking to that age level. What was that like?
It was great. It was great. I was gladly surprised. Just like you said, a lot of teachers responded really well to the book and were very excited. In two of the cases, some of the subjects that I went over my talk were subjects that they were going to review in the following 2 weeks. So the teachers were particularly excited about that. And then I was really happy to see how the children, how the students reacted, because usually I tend to think that kids are more shy in those situations. They just kind of listen and don't ask a lot, but they asked a lot of questions. They they referenced family members that did the citizenship process. And so it was great to find out that they get it. They get the whole, not only that it can be useful for citizenship, but they were excited to see graphics of subjects that they're learning for the first time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're probably amazed when you think about so many schools have dropped just basic civics classes,
yes.
and there's so much talk about bringing them back, and this is the perfect book for that.
I didn't know until I went to the high school. Somebody told me there that civics was no longer part of the curriculum, which it seems scary to me to cut something so important. I mean, how we function with each other and how we think collectively, and how we go about making decisions that don't only affect us but affect all of our community is extremely important. And I hope that's definitely one of the things that I hope with the book people get to refresh a little bit. For example, like what happens when you don't vote in the midterm? What gets affected? Like what immediately in your life gets changed by not choosing the right person or completely not showing up to vote.
Right.
I hope that all Americans or American citizens and new citizens and children like get an understanding and remember that it is important to be involved and to be present and active.
It's absolutely essential.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, this book, you told about how it got its start. So how many pages was this study guide that you had made for yourself?
44.
44 pages.
Yes, 44. It was a very little book. Originally, I was still only covering the answers to the questions of the exam. There are 100 questions you have to learn, and they usually only ask you less than 10, but you have to be prepared to answer all 100. And so the book was originally passport size, and it had all the answers illustrated, and it was only 44 pages at the beginning. Yeah.
So tell us how it ended up being with Abrams and Abrams Image, which is such a wonderful publisher.
It's a wonderful
They do
group.
some of the most wonderfully visual books that are just absolutely stunning. So how did that end up in it now being published by such a wonderful publisher? Tell us how that happened.
Sure. It was a lot of magic, I think.
Yeah.
So after doing a lot of prototypes, I was around looking to print it myself, to produce it myself. And I didn't really know, I'm a graphic designer, but I didn't really know how to go about the process of putting out a little publication by myself. So I was asking different printers and different people find out more information about it. And I showed it to a friend of mine, and that friend of mine told me, I know a really good illustrator, Tom Lichtenheld.
Oh, Lichtenheld, yes. He's a great children's book illustrator.
A wonderful
yes,
person
he's
also.
a great guy.
Yes,
yeah.
And so my friend told me, maybe I should just share it with him and see if he has any tips. And it was basically through the magic of people connecting people. I shared it with Tom. Tom gave me wonderful feedback. He was extremely generous at reviewing my little project. And then a little bit after, he connected me with his agent, and then his agent brought it in front of Abrams. And it was, one little funny thing is, the day I became a citizen, or the final day, the day where you go and do your oath ceremony,
right.
It's usually in the morning in downtown. So I went, did that, and when I got back, I got a phone call in the afternoon letting me know that Abrams was interested. So it was like, I'm now an American citizen and in the process of maybe having a book deal.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what an incredible day. Oh wow.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. So you are from Costa Rica and your family.
Yes.
And your family immigrated here in 1998?
Only myself.
Only yourself. So tell us, how did that happen? How old were you when you came here?
I was 23.
23?
Yes. So
I can't believe that that's almost 20 years later.
20 years later.
You can't be that old.
Yes, I am.
Oh my gosh.
That's my next book, Secrets on How to Age. Yes, I was 23. I was a copywriter for advertising in Costa Rica, and I liked doing it. It was, I think, the reason why I went into communications is the same reason why I'm now a graphic designer, because at the end of the day, I really like that whole idea of like working into making a message for somebody else, and I really enjoyed it, but there was something about it that was missing. And so when I was working in advertising agencies, I usually was paired up with a graphic designer to work on all my projects. And so it was just by seeing the graphic designer do his or her part that I realized, oops, I think I made a mistake in my career. And so I immediately knew that graphic design was
what you wanted to do.
that was the right thing. And so that's when I decided to come to the United States, to come to school. I went to Ohio State University.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so 98, I packed my bags and came here.
Wow, how wonderful.
Yeah.
So what was the impetus? What was it that made you want to take and go through the naturalization process and become a citizen?
Well, in Costa Rica, we are very proud about the process of voting. Voting is a big deal for us. We are taught very young that voting is no laughing matter, that is not something you can skip. For example, voting day is usually on a Sunday, so everyone can participate. It's when you, on voting day, you go to the streets, and it's like if a soccer match, it's like a soccer match celebration. It's loud and it's festive, and everyone is out showing their colors, and that's okay. Nobody gets into really serious confrontations about it. So talking about politics, talking about voting, and the electoral process is very common for us. It's like a family subject. So after being here for 16 years, like every time that was voting, like every 4 years, I would get very uncomfortable, because it felt to me, well, this is my country. In every other way, this is my country. I live here, my friends are here, my job is here, my cat is here, my work is here. And I pay taxes, everything that is a responsibility as a citizen I'm doing, but yet I cannot vote. And it was really bothering me. So at one point I decided, no more pushing it, no more waiting. It's time to do it. Yeah.
Well, I think it's wonderful about the book too, is show you how, you explain in the back about how important it is to be a good citizen. And one of those biggest things is to express that right to vote. And that's what I was wondering. Were you surprised at how difficult it is to get people to the polls to vote on voting days?
I guess I'm not very surprised, because it feels to me that all the efforts are to kind of almost disappear it from the everyday. Like, for example, the fact that it's not on a weekend.
Right.
It's on a weekday, and so people have to figure it out individually if they're going to be able to vote or not. Right. The fact that you don't hear anyone talking about it, or not that many people talk about it publicly, or it's on the news, it's on TV, but usually the part that is on TV is the negative part, is the bad spent money on insulting each other and all that stuff. So that effort is almost kind of a turn off on the process. Right. And I just feel that there's really no effort to make it into a positive celebration. And I don't know if it's because we keep on thinking about politics as this bipartisan thing, but voting has nothing to do with parties. Voting has to do with citizens acting as responsible citizens. Right. So it should be a celebration of democracy. It's about democracy. It's about freedom of speech. It's about freedom of electing your own president. It's not about 2 or 3 parties that are in power, fighting for the power, Right. So I'm not extremely surprised, but I certainly wish it was different.
Yeah.
I hope one day, I would like for smaller communities to make it, to perhaps take it upon themselves and make it into organize their businesses, because a lot of things are about consuming in the United States. So perhaps organizing their businesses and make it into another Valentine's Day kind of thing, where it's like a made up holiday, but in this particular case, I do think that it has a lot of benefit for businesses to get involved, for public figures to get involved, because you're not saying I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican. You're just saying I'm a responsible citizen.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there is talk about moving it to Saturday. I think that would be one of the first simple moves we could do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it should be promoted that there are closed streets or closed parks so people can go out and celebrate the fact that we're being able to do it.
Right.
I hope that one day goes like that.
So do you feel, growing up in Costa Rica, did you get a better civics education? Or was it just, it was a lot of it, maybe the education, but the positiveness put on the,
I think it's kind of on everything.
Yeah.
I don't think that we learn just from the school. It's just the way civic responsibility is approached on the news and in your families. And we even have, I don't know if we have that here, but we have children's elections. The day usually is either the weekend before. Yeah. And it ended up being a very good way of measuring what is going to happen, because at the end of the day, your children probably are going to vote for the person you've been talking at home. So, but I remember feeling very proud that I was voting, and you had to use your finger with ink, because that's also how it used to be in the past in Costa Rica. So that's how people know that you voted.
Okay.
And now it's the same way we do it here, but we still symbolically put our finger on ink, so people know.
I like that.
Yeah, because we take pride, and we also kind of shame our family members when they don't vote. So it's our way of showing that we did it.
Better than having that sticker that falls off your clothes.
It's a more semi-permanent thing for the day.
I think that's wonderful. But with all the things you put in this book, the illustrations, the graphs, the timelines, you put charts and maps, and it just added so much, and it makes it so, the clarity and understanding these things, I just thought was great.
Oh, thank you.
So besides, designing it and putting it together, you were the designer of the book as well.
Yeah.
So what did you like better, doing all the drawing or putting it together?
I liked both. I also did the research, because all this information is brand new to me. So I had to learn it first and decide, after reading about a particular subject, then I had to decide what could stay and what couldn't stay, and how I was going to represent it in graphics. I definitely like doing both parts, but I certainly enjoy it a lot, making information, the problem-solving portion of making information easy to understand is one of my favorite things.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like a a game with myself. How better can I make it? How more clear? What can I use? Oh, can I combine these other things? It's always just kind of a nicer challenge. And it's like, oh, maybe can I incorporate more information and without making it more complicated? Yeah, I really enjoyed that part.
It was so much fun to read. But I really liked the part where you divided between the three sections: history and geography, and then of course civics, and then immigration.
Yes.
And then you talked about just throwing the chart about what you need to do
Yes.
to become a U.S. citizen. I thought that was really wonderful. So I wanted to know, what is your earliest recollection of loving to draw?
Oh,
I mean, what do you remember?
always.
Do you remember how young you were and something
Yes.
that you created that you were so proud of? You know?
Something that is that I've been thinking a lot about since doing this book. It's very connected to the book. When I was little, I didn't like to do my homework. It was a very difficult process. And I think partially it had to do with the whole thing of maybe I didn't really know that I had some trouble learning things. So I just hated it and put it on the side. So my mom made a deal with me that if I finished my homework early enough, I could do a drawing at the end of each homework. So that became the reason to do my homework. So I would kind of speed up maybe a little too much in the homework part, just so I could sit down and dedicate as much as I could on the drawing. And to me, that's, thinking back, it's like I'm very grateful that my mom did that trick. Yes.
No, because it's a joy.
Yeah.
It's a joy.
Yeah, it became
it.
like a prize.
Right. So you're a freelance, graphic designer and an illustrator, and I know you have worked for some big companies like Motorola and things like that. And so now you're doing your own thing.
Yes.
What did you enjoy about the corporate side, and what do you enjoy so much about being more free to do the projects that you really wish to do?
I think I'm lucky enough that I got both those experiences in that order. I learned a lot working in big corporations. Motorola, for example, is a company. When I started there, it was a company that moved really fast. It had offices everywhere around the world, so you quickly had to get used to working with people far away that perhaps you never were going to meet. And there was a lot of, you figure it out, you come in, you figure it out, and you learn as you go. There was very little hand holding going on. I think that was by far one of the most important things I learned, because it allowed me to become an independent designer later in life, because now I know how to take care of all the parts of a process.
That totally makes sense.
It was a great school. Cool. And then you get exposed to so many different types of people, and so many different direction, or so many different specializations of the business. You get to appreciate the knowledge of different people, and you get to understand that usually things take a lot of people for them to happen. That working in teams have a great impact, which is something that I now miss. Working by myself, the not having coworkers is a little bit lonely sometimes. But then I really like being able to have a wide variety of projects and clients. At Motorola or at SRAM, I either was working on technology or bicycles, and now I get to have much more of a variety.
Yeah,
yes.
Wonderful. What do you hope that people will take away from How to Be an American?
I really hope that, like new citizens, I hope that first they pass the test and that the process is easy and comfortable and enjoyable. I also hope that they get curious about other parts of American history. I think that when you move to another country, doesn't matter what country it is, and you decide to become a citizen, you should know that country as well as possible. And understanding the history of a country will always allow you to, or facilitate your understanding of what's going on today, what's important to the citizens, how are decisions made. With American-born people, I really would want the main thing is I would like them to be more involved in the civic part of their country. I hope that they get to read a little bit about like things that happen in your history or characters from your history that are so inspiring, and maybe like refresh their memory and hopefully like get inspired to be similar to them,
Right.
like emulate some of those activists, like
To get more engaged in what's going on. Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I have a question for you. Do you think our current president could pass the citizens test?
Oh, no.
I don't think so either.
No, I don't think so.
And then, what are you working on now? Because this book is so brilliant. I hope you take it to other subjects and work on things like this.
I have like a couple of ideas, but I'm not sure. They're very early. But I clearly really I enjoy explaining things with graphics.
Yeah.
So, and I truly believe that drawings are a very powerful way of explaining things. So now perhaps juggling too many possibilities of subjects that I'm excited
thinking
about.
what to do.
Yeah. But definitely I want to keep on exploring this whole system of combining graphics and visual elements to explain things to people. I love it.
We would love to see more, and I love the humor you put into it. So I end these interviews with a quick quiz.
Yes.
So you know all the answers.
Okay.
A lot of them are book related.
Okay.
So you know. So what was your favorite book when you were a child? Do you remember a story or a
Yes.
book that you really...
Well, Where the Wild Things Are.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was one. That one, and there was another book. I don't know if I know the name in English, but it was an American book. It was something like how are we born? How are our bodies? It was like a scientific book,
Right.
and the illustrations were beautiful, and it explained how humans and animals growth and developed and reproduced. And every night I would ask my mom to read that because I thought, well, I really liked seeing how we were so similar to animals, but it also had it had naked pictures of people, and I thought that was like so great. I was like, oh, and my mom was very happy to explain how the baby was born. So that was really exciting to me.
Yeah. And do you have a favorite graphic artist? Someone that you really love their work?
Oh, let's see. I really, really love Stefan Sachmeister.
Okay.
Not only I like his work, but I really like how he goes about working.
Yeah.
I like the times I've heard him talk. I really like his priorities in life. Seem to be aligned to how I feel about what is important. And he seems just a very approachable person, and to see somebody who's so successful be so humble and so approachable is very inspiring to me. Yeah.
Okay, what was the last book you gave as a gift? Do you remember that?
Oh, I don't remember.
Besides your own.
Oh, I don't remember that. Let me see. There's one artist I really like, and I gave that book, but it was many years ago, so chances are I gave other ones. But whenever I have a chance to get a hold on his work, I buy it and give it to other people.
Yeah.
His name is Kino, and he's a cartoon artist from Argentina, and he's very political, and he has a way of addressing politics and dealing with very complicated, heavy subjects in a beautiful way. And sometimes I really like the ones, I like to show my friends, American friends, the ones that don't have words, because to me those are the most powerful ones. Just to be able to communicate something that is complicated about a political thing or a social thing, and do it without using any words. And for people from a complete different culture to understand it is magical
that's universal.
to me. Yeah, it's magical.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay. What is any book you read your entire life that you could not tell enough people they had to read it?
There's like zero.
I know, it's hard to
Yeah, I know,
just pick
it's
that.
so
Whatever the one
difficult.
that comes to mind first.
No, because that one is so sad, and I don't know why I'm thinking of that one.
Okay, that's okay.
So scary to. I think I don't know why I'm thinking of anything of Gabriel Garcia Marquez now makes me feel happy because it makes me think of my people. My people, I think of all Latin people,
Right,
you know.
yeah. He's
wonderful.
Exquisite writer.
And that, like, I don't know how it's translated, but magic realism, realismo mágico.
Magical realism.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because many people, especially old like grandmas and people in the past in Latin America, do think like that.
And that's what makes those stories so wonderful.
Yeah.
It's so emotional.
Yeah, I'm not getting all emotional, but I haven't read any of his or reread any of his books in the last years. But I think that that's one of the ones that, or not one, but a writer that I would definitely like recommend at any time.
Great choice. Great choice. And what about your favorite American hero from all your research and what you did to study? Who do you think is your favorite American hero right now? There's a lot of people that I don't know if they even have like names, but like people that were like the whole civil rights movement to me is extremely moving. Yeah. The students that sat down in like a luncheonette and quietly protested, even though it was such a risk and such a scary thing, and these are like young very young people doing that. Those stories are for me very inspiring, more than like a person with a name. Right.
I would say, women I read about that worked for us to like be able to vote as females, or to have like proper health care for women. There's a lot of smaller people that I was very moved by.
A collective group. They made a huge difference.
There is one part, I remember being extremely moved about the Underground Railroad because I realized like, well, this could only happen if tiny people that were not empowered got together and risked together to help runaway slaves because they didn't agree with what was going on.
Yeah. Those are the unsung heroes.
Yes, that to me is so moving. And as a new American, I'm excited to know that I belong to a country, or that I'm part of a country that has those stories as part of the history. Because to me, those are the people that actually do shape what the United States is today.
Right, and that's what you said about it's telling that story is so important to remember and to always keep it, you know.
And feel proud and emulate it, and take reference from that kind, those fights and those moments of collectiveness. I imagine there's a lot of important people that later I'm going to be very angry that I didn't tell you.
No. I think that was a perfect answer.
Yeah.
Okay, and last question.
Yes.
What are you reading now? Anything?
Nothing. I'm so tired.
That's okay. That's a good answer. That works.
Tired that I haven't read anything at all.
That's okay.
I read, the last book I read was it was called Station 11.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's a great one.
It's a beautiful book. It was also very heavy, but it's a beautiful book.
But it does show you, no matter what happens, there's always hope.
Yes.
And together we can do something.
Little people together.
That's right.
Yes.
That's a good choice.
Yes.
Well, Sylvia, thank you so much for
Thank you so much for having me here.
I love this book, and thank you so much for putting it together, because it has such power. Great conversation with an incredible graphic designer and illustrator. It's Silvia Hidalgo. She is a local author and illustrator. It's How to Become an American Citizen, a field guide to citizenship. A great refresher for all of us, and for all of us who just want to be a good citizen of the United States. Thanks for joining me on Authors Reveal.